Right. Everybody, it's Jason Creel, and you are live on the Lawn Care Life YouTube channel. And some of you may be watching on replay, but thank you for joining us. We got a special guest with us today. We got Dave Arnett with Graham Spray Equipment. Dave is the sales manager over at Graham. Dave, how long have you been at Graham Spray Equipment?
This is my 36th year.
36 years. So a lot of you young bucks in the lawn care business, Dave's been working at Graham longer than you've been alive. So, so anyway, we're going to talk about, once your questions as far as lawn care questions. And Dave has been around a lot of lawn care business owners in his years. And so we're going to talk to him, and we're going to talk about spray equipment, lawn equipment, and we'll talk about business, and then whatever questions you guys have. So if somebody is watching, wants to give me a thumbs up that everybody can hear everything good, that's always affirming when you're dealing with technicality. So Dave, let's start the conversation with this. Tell me, all right, first of all, just for somebody out there that's never not familiar with Graham Spray Equipment, what are you guys doing? Let me say this: Graham is a regular sponsor on the channel, so you've heard me talk about them. I've got a Graham spray tank on the back of my truck, and that's what I use to spray my yards with. But for those of you that are not in the weed control and fertilization business, or maybe are not familiar with Graham, Dave, introduce us to Graham as a company. What do you guys do over there?
Okay, well, we're a custom spray equipment builder for the primarily the lawn care industry. We've been around for, I guess, since the late 70s, and we've been part of the growth of lawn care, I think, as much as any company, because we've watched it grow, and we've been a part of so many people's business, their growth. And I think what sets us apart from other companies is we're a custom builder. We'll help the customer design and create their own special spray rig that suits their specific needs.
All right, tell me, what's 36 years ago when y'all were building spray tanks versus what you're building right now? What's been the differences of what you're what did y'all used to put out 36 years ago?
Well, they used to build beds out of wood and steel, which were giant rust buckets, But they've come a long way with the tank technology that we use. Yeah. A lot of the spray equipment honestly hadn't changed that much. Maybe a few innovations as far as pumps and longevity goes. Yeah. They're probably better now, but and probably now we do more multiple tank systems than what we did before. And I think it's because of the varieties of different chemicals that people use for the different types of grasses and that they have success with. So we try to accommodate the customer as far as getting the specific tank setup they want.
Can you tell me what is for those of you watching, like I'm in the weed control business. I used to mow lawns, and now primarily spray yards, and I've got a 400-gallon Graham spray tank on the back of my truck. But Dave, what's one of the oldest units that you've seen that's still in operation that y'all have worked on at Graham?
Well, back in the day, many years ago, you used to see 1,200-gallon tanks riding up down the road. Yeah. And that's back from the old, Kim Lawn model. They were one of the innovators originally in lawn care, and they sprayed that 4 to 5 gallons a minute, and they wanted lots of gallons. And so over the years, you've seen them, adapt to a little, the mix rate a little bit. But believe it or not, there's still a couple of those that are still in existence. I mean, one of the guys that had the last remaining ones, he's retiring now, and he's trying to sell it. But he's up in the north area, north of the United States area. But he's proud as he could be of that unit and how long it's lasted. It's just that, not too many people have a need for that many gallons these days.
Yeah. And guys, y'all can ask any questions you want about spray equipment, or ask about killing weeds, or ask about whatever you want to ask. So it helps if it's more interactive. So feel free to ask questions. But as far as Dave, I'm just thinking about the money. I know sometimes it's hard you don't want to overpromise, and when you're in your marketing, being able to put a number out there. But what do y'all kind of tell people when they get into weed control is like, hey, if you buy this spray tank, it'll generate this much revenue for your business?
A lot of that has to do with the type of chemicals they're using or the type of mix rate that they're comfortable with using. I mean, you can make a living with a 200-gallon tank, but as you start to grow your business, you may realize that, hey, you need a little more, or maybe you need another container, another compartment to, along with some of the other, grasses you have to spray. So, I mean, my primary objective is to, build the spray equipment or design a spray unit that suits that customer's needs, whatever that may be,
I got you. I'm going to take a question here that is herbicide related. So let's see, what's a better alternative to 2,4-D? I would say, it's hard to answer that as far as better, and depends on what type of grass you have. 2,4-D is a great product. So, what kind of grass you have and what kind of weeds you're trying to kill, because 2,4-D is something we use all the time. But if you're on a yard that like, so let's just say you got centipede grass that doesn't particularly care for 2,4-D, then you might have to use something like Trimex Southern or something else that's a little more favorable to the grass. He says, especially in spring, grass hogs, let us know what kind of grass you're dealing with, what kind of weeds you're attempting to kill. Dave, my tank is a split tank, and I'm thrilled to death that I have the split tank, because like I said, I deal with Bermuda and Zoysia lawns, and then also have some centipede St. Augustine lawns, and it's kind of a different program for both of those. But how many tanks? I mean, I've been over there before, and y'all got, what's the kind of complex setup on some of those flatbeds where they put, how many tanks have you seen where they have individual tanks?
We've done 4 to 5 different tanks on a setup, which is not, I mean, really you can do, like, you got a 300, 100 mix with one pump that you switch back and forth, with one reel. Well, some people may want to do a completely different hose, pump, and reel for that compartment, so there's no switching back and forth, no changing the valves or anything. And so when you start designing one, or if somebody's, they've been in the business for a while, and they, after they've maybe sprayed some yards for a couple of years, they said, well, I tell you what, if I had a setup that was, with a 400-gallon main tank and a 200-gallon separate tank, and then maybe a 100-gallon, tree shrub, on top of that, boy, that'd be great. What kind of bed do I need? What kind of, cabin chassis do I need? And I try to help them, to get there with whatever it is they're trying to accomplish,
Yeah. And I've seen y'all got a pretty impressive portfolio and in your office and on the website and stuff. We got my friend James asked, Dave, what is your recommended gallons per 1,000 nowadays for average customer with a 300-gallon unit? What color gun nozzle fits that recommendation?
The most popular today is 2 to 3 gallons a minute, somewhere in that category. That would be the yellow or the green nozzle. The green nozzle for the Lesco is 3 gallons, and then the yellow is 2 gallons, if I'm not mistaken. And so, that's an important question for us to ask when you're setting up a rig, because believe it or not, even though that's very popular, not everybody sprays with the same flow rate in mind. And some people, like I've seen you guys did a video about calibration and gallons per 1,000 and everything. And it's got everything to do with how fast you want to walk and how fast you want to spray. So I don't want to build a rig for a customer that's spraying 2 to 3 gallons per 1,000, or that I don't want to set one up for 2 to 3 gallons per 1,000. And then they're actually spraying 5, because they're not going to be happy with them. They're going to, have that thing, the regulator, cranked all the way in, and they're going to be stressing that pump a little too much for long-term success. So it's an important question for us to ask, and I'm glad that person asked that question, right there. And, is that James Bartley? Is that who that is?
Yeah. Now I've got mine set up. I've got 300 on one side and 100 on the other. On the 300 side, I've got, I'm spraying, on both sides, but I spray about 2 gallons per 1,000 square feet. And I think, I've stared at the nozzles all the time. I can't remember if I got the green or the yellow on mine, but I feel like it's green, but I can't remember. But anyway, 2 gallons to me, like I said, let's say I got a Bermuda zoysia. Like today, for instance, I sprayed 20 yards today. Well, I did 20 yards. I fertilized, a couple of them were centipede, and I put out some fertilizers. But let's just say I sprayed 18 yards today, and I had the 300-gallon side mixed up for those 18 yards. And I, I didn't come close to running out. Now, if I got 18 big yards, then you struggle. But and then on my 100-gallon side, I've got that mixed up for my new sign-ups. So I'm, crabgrass is already germinated. I'm trying to put a Postemergent in there for crabgrass. So I've got that, because I picked up a new customer today. Well, I didn't have. I was ready. I flipped the valve on my tank. I spray. If I had a separate tank, that'd been fine too. But I put the dye in there, flipped the valve. It's the same thing I'm spraying on the old customers. I just put the Postemergent in there with it. And then when I get to the next yard, I flip it back and go back spraying my traditional route. So that's why the split tank or designated tanks or whatever. I mean, but along that lines though, Dave, I get people that watch my channel. A lot of them follow my story of kind of mowing lawns, and then they got into spraying. And a lot of times people say, basically they're asking what's the cheapest thing I can get to get started. So like if somebody comes to y'all with a smaller budget, what do y'all try to steer them towards to get them going in the industry?
Well, basically I would recommend the 200-gallon poly sprayer because it's got the same, commercial grade equipment, the pump, the engine, the reel, all that stuff is high grade, the best you can buy on the market. And then, of course, we're going to a little skid frame with a poly tank on it. And the reason I say 200 gallons is because the poly tank is the least expensive part of the equation. You can make it 100 gallons. Well, it's not going to make it that much cheaper. So you might as well go ahead and buy the 200 gallon. That'll give you some, just put, if you only need 100 gallons, only fill it up halfway. But we can build it any size, and we can build, just about any type of equipment you want. But that's a unit that I'd love to have on my yard. I'd love to have 10 of them. Unfortunately, we've sold them all this year because of it's been a busy year. So we haven't had a chance to replenish our stock supply. But if my guys in the shop said, hey, which kind of stock do you want me to build next? I'd say build me a bunch of those. They're great quality equipment. And no matter how you grow your business in the future, you'll have a use for this unit. Somewhere you can have it back of a manager's truck, or you can have it as just an extra truck or whatever, or just for service calls. There'll be a purpose in your company somewhere down the line for years to come.
I got you. James, if you're watching this, the Grass Hogs is working with ryegrass and fescue and wants to know what he can use other than 2,4-D to kill his weeds. So if you have an answer for that, chime in. We'll try to get you an answer for that, Grass Hogs. I more focus on the southern turf grasses, but we'll have somebody on here, and somebody else might could chime in. What can he use other than 2,4-D on his rye and fescue yards? Let's see here. Are those spray weed and whedon feeds useless? And opinions on 3-in-1 fertilizer? No, they're not useless. I wouldn't say. I think what we talked about this in another time, Robert. What happens is, like, when you you're paying a premium for those products, okay? Because you're getting them off the shelf at your local big box store. And I mean, honestly, when you read the label, it's some of the same ingredients that we would use on a professional basis. Now, they may not be mixed at the same rate. And where we buy stuff in 2.5 gallon jugs, or sometimes bigger containers than that, and we're able to mix it at the rates we want to mix. You're paying a super high premium. Useless, I wouldn't say useless. I think the problem I have a lot of the whedon feeds and in general marketing of lawn care products is they run these ads in the springtime. You'll be watching the Masters golf tournament next weekend. They'll be running all these ads, kill your crabgrass and all that. And I'm thinking the crabgrass is already germinated, at least for a lot of people in the South. You're too late on getting your pre-emergent out, So I just think a lot of times the homeowners screw up because maybe they got the right product, but they don't know how to apply. They don't know how to understand the rates, and they applied at the wrong timing. So as far as 3-in-1 fertilizer, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that is. What a 3-in-1 fertilizer is. Do you dethatch a centipede lawn? Well, I'll tell you what, I've seen some centipede lawn. I was on one today, and the guy he called me the other day. It's one of my customers. He's got his centipede about 4 inches tall, and it's squishy. I mean, it's just so thick, and so I told him the other day, I said, listen, this is your chance to get the centipede down where it needs to be. Because it's early in the year, and yeah, it might stress it out a little bit for you to hack it down to like 1.5 inches or something, maybe 2 inches, and you don't have to do it all at one shot. Take half of it off and take more off the next time. But anyway, to me, the answer is if you'll start mowing it low and frequently, then your need to dethatch is probably not as much. But if you've let it get 3-4 inches tall and you've got all that junk built up, then it probably is hindering it a little bit. What will work best in clover? I'm not sure if you mean in clover or on clover. I did a video the other day on spraying clover. I tried 4 different products: Katana, Tribute Total, Blindside, and Change Up. Katana did not do so well, but the other 3 all did great. You'd have to find one that's labeled for your grass type. Let's see. I'm 13 years old with 17 customers, just a truck, and my dad drives me around. I have 13,000 saved up. What's the first big step I should do to grow my business? Well, that's pretty good. If you're 13 years old and you saved up $13,000, that's you're way ahead of where I was when I was 13. That's for sure. I would definitely try to. I mean, your dad's driving you around. You're not going to be able to drive for 3 more years, so I would say at the pace you're going in the next 3 years, you should be able to upgrade to a mower and a truck. I mean, those kind of go together. What's the point of having a big 0-turn mower if you don't have a trailer to pull it with? So, yeah, I would save up, and you got something great that you could go through high school with, and then you'd make a decision after that if it's something you want to keep going with or not. Got some Aussies on here. It's the second Australian person that we've talked to. Emily says, "What post are you spraying for crabgrass?" I'm using quinclorac. I'm using Drive Accelerate right now. And if I'm spot treating, I usually use Solitaire. All right, Dave, got one for you. Here we go. How do I add a pressure regulator to control the pressure at the gun? I have a Let's Go gun with a yellow nozzle. I believe the excess pressure is wearing the gun out early. Any suggestions?
Mm-hmm. So he's saying he doesn't have a regulator on his spray unit? Is that what he's saying?
Well, we'll just have to interpret it best we can. Altman, you may have to clarify here, but if you don't have a pressure regulator, yeah, it sounds like he does not have a pressure regulator. Maybe you can give us a little bit more information about your setup, and we'd be able to give you some more information. Do you have any initial thoughts on that, Dave?
If it doesn't, I mean, we see a lot of, hybrid systems that have been maybe put together and, maybe altered a little bit here and there. So you definitely have to have a regulator, because if you say the excess pressure is at the gun, when you shut the gun off, the regulator controls the flow of that pressure back into your tank. So it evens that pressure out. So you're not hammering that pump severely. So if you just had a pump hooked up and running into the gun, then every time you turn that gun off, it's building up back pressure to the gun, and that would wear out a Let's Go gun. So if you're going to add one, if you don't have one, there are many different types you can do depending on the type of pump you're using. But you want to come off the return side of the pump and add the regulator there, and make sure you got where it's the pressure side of the pump, and then you want to be one side going to the reel and the other side going back into your tank, so it evens that pressure out. And you can give us a call at Graham, or you can do an inquiry at grahamse.com, and we'll help you any way we can to get that set up, get you the right parts, whatever we can do for you.
Dave, do y'all ever see some, homemade units come rolling into your shop and wanting to upgrade it a little bit or make it work for them? We
see all kind of stuff. I mean, what we see a lot of times is, Graham's been around for, over 40 years. So, somebody will say, listen, I got to bring my Graham unit by and have you guys do a little, maybe winterization, maybe a little wintertime maintenance or something. And we look at it and go, well, that ain't been a Graham unit for 20 years. because somebody's modified in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And so, which is nothing wrong with that, but we build stuff to last. We build stuff with good quality components. So, and a lot of times with larger companies who have multiple sprayers, the sprayer will bring it by and say, yeah, I just got this, this week. And I didn't do any of this modification is done. And said, well, we've heard that before. It's okay. We'll fix it up, make it right, and make it where it runs, for the long haul,
Yeah. Well, you won't get that from me, Dave. I'm not going to be attempting to. If I need something fixed on mine, I know where you guys are. I'm driving over there.
Mm-hmm.
This guy says he's a regular on the channel. He says, "Hey, I got in from mowing yards, getting longer days. You have had a long day. Probably all the rain we've had lately. People are playing catch up. So, what would you say, Dave, as far as like mowing? Do y'all get many people that are doing both mowing yards and spraying?
Yeah.
And do y'all do setups where you build a truck where they could pull their mower up back on the back of the Zuzu, or like how do you what do you tell these people when they call you and they say they don't want to give up the mowing, they want to keep mowing?
Right.
Do most of them go with just a separate truck that's their spray truck, or do some of them try to do it all out of the same truck?
They can. We got guys that pull a trailer, and then maybe put the spray unit in the back of the pickup truck and then pull a trailer. We also build a lawnscaper spray unit, which is it's a landscape bed with a spray unit on it and then a fold down ramp for whatever type of machinery, a lawnmower, aerator, ride-on spreader, sprayer, whatever. If you're really tired of pulling a trailer, but that's the way you want to go with that type of equipment, we build a landscape bed that'll hold up to a 400-gallon spray unit and even that Z-Max,
Z sprays and all that.
Yeah, that the big machine. We build something to hold a sprayer and that ride-on machine. So lawnmowers, aerators, all that kind of stuff. We see a lot of that these days because pulling a trailer can be a little bit of a hassle and expense. So if you want to encompass everything into one rig, we can accommodate you.
I tell you what, I think from when I was mowing grass, I always pulled a trailer. But if I had to do over again, I don't think I would. I think I would get me a truck where I could pull the mowers in it, whether it be a box truck or a flatbed with a landscaper ramp back there, whatever it would be. But I don't like trailers, but people do what they got to do. All right, so here's your answer for the alternative for 2,4-D. If you're using cool season grasses, turf lawn or change up. Now I use that all the time on warm season grasses, so I can certainly vouch for that. All right, do y'all get any of these, Dave? Anybody using y'all spray rigs to soft wash houses?
Years ago, Max Graham would build anything under the sun. We built fire trucks. We built septic trucks. We built oil tankers. We built everything. Nowadays, we're trying to stick to just lawn care equipment.
I got you.
Because of the other companies specialize in different things. So it's hard for us to compete with those companies that specialize in certain things. So we do lawn care. And if you're trying to spray 3 to 5 gallons a minute, and we do have some tree setups that we work with customers to build to spray high pressure. But that's still delivering a fertilizer type product or something like that. Not too many people that not for us, not spraying houses. We're basically just a lawn business.
Somebody the other day was talking to me about getting into pressure washing, and they said, or soft washing house, and he said, "What kind of rig you got?" And I was telling him about my rig, and he said, "Man, you got the rig already. You got the pump to do that." I said, "Well, I think I'm gonna stick with the yards." But anyway, so I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be too much converted. But yeah, I'm with you. I think you focus on one thing. All right. So he said, "I finished round 1 on Bermuda yards with 3-way prodiamine in West Texas. Next round, need to focus on grassy weeds. Bermuda's 50% green up. You think next round Celsius certainty for max cleanup?" Well, to me, Celsius and certainty is one of the greatest combinations for us, especially the warm season grasses. You mix those two together, it'll just about kill most anything we're going to run across, or at least have some effect on it. So, but I rarely put those in my big tank and go out and spray the yard, because you're going to be spraying out some pretty serious money doing that. So that, to me, that's more of a backpack combination. For your grassy weeds, like if you're talking about like POA and stuff like that, by this time, honestly, I'm kind of letting it die out. I had a customer call me today. I sprayed his yard like 3 weeks ago, and I've been trying to explain to these customers, like, listen, if it's a new sign up, you got POA all over your yard. The POA is not going to die, but all these broadleaf weeds are going to die. Now the POA will die when it gets hot. I try to explain that to them, and the reason being, I don't tell them this part, but I'm not blanketing their yard with Celsius uncertainty to kill the POA that's going to be dying out from the heat in no time anyway. So he called me today, and he's like, all these weeds are still there, and I was like, is it POA? Is it the one I was telling you about? So anyway, I think to my point there, you got to really communicate to the customer and say, hey, listen, this weed is going to be dying out soon. But now if it's some grassy weeds, there's some that are going to hang around longer. Like if you're trying to get rid of, you got some ryegrass clumps in the yard or something like that, that would be a great combination. Also, this is one of your last windows of opportunity to try to pound your Dallas grass with Celsius uncertainty or Retribute Total. So that would be a good combination for that as well. But yeah, if you want to blanket it, then just make sure you understand how much money you're spraying out the end of the hose there. Let's see. Question: do you put out pre or post emergent almost every application? No. What my program, I do, put your pre and your post together, and I do a split pre at the beginning of the year. So my round 1 is a pre and post, my round 2 is a pre and post, and then I start fertilizing round 3 and round 4 and round 5. I'm doing weed control, and then round 6 is my fall pre and post. So I'm out of my 7-step program, I'm doing 3 pre and post application. Now I'm always spot treating weeds. So yeah, I guess I'd say 3 times I might putting a pre-emergent out and mixing it with post-emergent and blanketing in the yard. The rest of the time I'm doing fertilizer or lime in the wintertime and spot treating weeds. All right. Hey, congratulations to the 13-year-old with more money in his bank than most of the rest of us. So he's congratulating you. Incredible job on your part. He says he's been working hard for a while. If working hard like that, I'm sure, my advice to you, don't go work for some other lawn business. Just keep doing your own thing. You got plenty of time, and I think you seem like you got to work like that. You can make it on your own. All right, back to Altman here, Dave. He says, I have a regulator, but it also controls recirculating in the tank. So y'all lost me on those regulator talk. You'll have to clarify on that kind of stuff.
Well, if you have if you have a regulator and it's it just may not be functioning properly, and that may be a sign. If it's like I said, when you let off the gun, you shouldn't notice when you turn the gun back on, you shouldn't notice a surge. It should come out the same flow as it was when you stopped spraying. So if it is a regulator on there, it could need to be, maybe it needs rebuild kit put in.
All right. James says, Dave, what are the basic pros and cons of a pickup unit versus a Cabover like the Maverick? And for y'all, Dave, when you answer this, explain what the Maverick is and a rough cost comparison of each truck sprayer combos.
Okay. The Maverick is basically the equivalent to a pickup truck, except it's a Cabover with a flatbed. And the reason that the Maverick exists is because if you don't have a pickup truck yet, and you're thinking about buying something in that range, like what you have, Jason, a 400-gallon unit, consider buying a Zuzu. You'll see that the price point is right on, where it should be, as far as you can get the entire cab and cabin chassis and spray unit for what you can buy most pickup trucks for of that same heavy duty equipment size. So, and to answer that question, the difference is let's say you buy a pickup truck, put a 400-gallon unit in it, space is limited. The accessibility as far as getting things in and out of the back of the truck is limited, whereas on a Maverick with a flatbed, you can set it up for installing backpacks, dry fertilizer, all these different things you can do that are just right there at your, at your fingertips when you're working around the truck, as far as setting it up, where you want the tank configuration, where you want your reels, where you want your different accessories like push spreader, brackets, all these different things you can, it's much more easier to set one up
with a flatbed. And then there's also a lot of better storage, dry storage, or like storage compartments available. Now there's certainly nothing wrong with the pickup truck. Probably our number one selling unit overall is a 400-gallon pickup rig. Always want those as many as I can get, built and ready to go for customers, or we build them all the time, custom. And that's been a staple for Graham for many years. So right now with the truck costs, if you do, let's say we're doing a 2-tank, 2 pumping system unit, 400-gallon, split 3-in-1 with 2 reels and 2 pumps, to go on a flatbed, you're probably looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $60,000 for that. And that's ready to spray. And so, and depending on the type of pickup you go to try to buy, you might be paying more for just the pickup truck right now. And obviously that with the growth of our industry, all these vehicles are in a premium right now. They're building them as fast as they can. So it's just a matter of if you feel like you're going to need one this year, it's probably better to go ahead and place your order.
Yeah, and I'll say I've had a pickup unit and a flatbed. I definitely like working off the flatbed better. It's just personal preference. I mean, you picture yourself picking up a 50-pound bag of fertilizer, not one, but picking up 20 a day. And if it's in the bottom of that pickup truck, it's just not quite as comfortable to reach over there and grab it. It's not, I'm a grown man. I can do it. I just, I prefer to slide it off that bed and not have to lift it up so high. And then I'm mounting my backpack sprayer racks right there on the bed where I can just back up to it and put it on my shoulders. I'm ready to go versus, trying to have it down in the bed and having to pick it up over the bed rail. So again, there's not like both of them can work. I've used both of them, but I like the flatbed myself. All right. It says, what is the smallest gallon setup you do for a newbie?
We can build it any size you want to, You want a 25-gallon sprayer? We'll be able to want. Absolutely.
It'd be good for 2 yards, and then you go fill back up. So yeah, better be stick close to your house where you have time to run back and fill it up every once in a while. But I mean, in seriousness, Dave, y'all wouldn't encourage anybody to go less than 200 usually if you're going to be out there spraying yards consistently. I mean, it might be different if you're doing like tree and shrub or something, but
yes.
So
yeah, exactly. We'll build any rig that anybody requests us to build. And then as we start, getting, start talking about what do you need, and we'll try to help you. If I feel like somebody's, making a mistake by buying something like that, I'll give them my input. But if they're dead set on a certain size, we'll help them out with that. One thing like as you was describing your truck and your backpack and all that, everybody has different personalities and everybody likes to spray differently, and when you're setting up a spray rig, I'm working with a guy who's thinking about his daily procedures, what he likes to do, how he likes to do it. What you want to be able to do is maximize your daily revenue. What can I do to make the most money today, most efficiently, and not wear myself out, doing it? And so do I want to have to go back and fill up halfway through the day? Do I want to, maybe spray every conceivable type of grass or all the different yards I do just, in a day? And we try to help them set up to where it suits their personality and it suits the way they like to do business, the way they like to spray yards,
But one thing I've noticed, Dave, is when these companies that are obviously well established, and I'm sure y'all get some orders where these companies come in there and order who knows how many rigs in 1 year, and I'm sure y'all are glad to get those orders. But you see the bill they get, and how are people forking over that kind of money? And the reason is because how much money they make in the business. So sometimes I see somebody like this, and I'm like, I get it. I understand. Like when I've started 3 lawn businesses. All 3 times I think I've had a part-time job while I started, just try to make ends meet. So but I do think you got to sort of picture yourself a few years into this when you're established, and like how much you see these unbelievable rigs that these people are riding around in, and they've got it wrapped up, and it just looks like, it's awesome, and it's like, well, how do they afford that? Not only afford it, they keep buying more the next year, and I can guarantee they're not doing it and going backwards on their money, so they do it because the weed control and fertilization is very profitable business. And you got, I mean, like I said, for mine, I mean, my spray tank's is certainly not the most expensive one, but it's like, what that costs me, the amount of money it's going to generate each year it's like the return on investment is just unbelievable. I mean, and I'm pro mowing grass, but when I compare it to buying a zero-turn mower, there's really no comparison from a business standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like you said, we have a lot of big companies that buy, large numbers of rigs every year. And we also have guys who are buying their first rig. I enjoy working with both of those. And it's like this, if you take the ultimate spray rig, there's really no limit to how much you can spend on one. Especially if you're talking about a diesel truck and, 1,000 gallons, of liquid in multiple compartments. You could be up to $80,000. I mean, that's not unrealistic to think that. So if you take that particular truck and you think about, well, what's obviously you got to have the customers, you got to have the customer base, you got to have the counts to use that truck. But the reality is in one day spraying, you can make that payment on that truck if you have the. So therefore, it's when companies call me that if they don't have already forecasted so many rigs for this year, they'll call me when they need to have a new rig because they just sold their 400th new account, and they've got a brand new spray tech that they're absolutely love to for him to come to work for them, and he needs a spray unit to spray out of. So a lot of times when you get to that point, when you've added so many new accounts, you have no choice but to buy a new rig, and then we benefit on that. But that's what we do, and we're there to provide them with that service when they need it.
All right, Dave. Charles says, is it smart to use the same tank for lawns and shrubs? What do you think about that?
No, no, not. You want a separate tank for shrubs that you do lawns.
And in that situation, you wouldn't want to set up like mine where you got a split tank and you flip the valves because you're going to be kind of cross contaminated. You want a sure enough separate tank for your
a smart lawn care man told me a long time ago, try not to kill the grass, okay? Or anything that you're spraying, you want it to turn green and be pretty. You don't want to kill it,
And when people do a tree and shrub deal, like the average lawn guy, it's just that not somebody's just out there, all they do is tree and shrub. But what do they have a 100-gallon tank, or what's kind of standard for tree and shrub tank?
100 to 200 gallons.
Okay.
Depends on how much they're promoting that side of their account.
Yeah.
A lot of people will use it as an upsell. It's not part of your regular lawn care program. So they upsell the treatment of their tree and shrubs. And it's anything that you would use on your lawn. Now, I'm not an expert on this, but that's where the mix comes. You wouldn't want to spray anything on your tree shrubs that you might have been spraying on your lawns.
Yeah, that's right.
Will do damage. And so people ask about, well, I can get a sterilizer, I can clean my tank out and all that. And, and if you're doing one full round of something, that's something you want to think about. Maybe you can do, but if you're adding it in, periodically, you just want a whole separate system for that,
All right. Nicholas says, killing Bermuda without glyphosate. What you got? Well, I don't know if you mean just killing your whole yard and starting over. I mean, there's other non-selective herbicides. I'm not sure the name of them right off the top of my head because I use glyphosate, but or if you're trying to get Bermuda out of something else, that might be a challenge. But there's other non-selectives you could use just to kill your yard dead, whether it's Bermuda or anything else. Is there a product to get rid of centipede in a St. Augustine lawn? That would be tough. I know like centipede in general doesn't like methylfuron, but I don't think it's going to kill it unless you just, St. Augustine is a little more tolerant of it than centipede. But so you might like turn your centipede yellow, but I don't know. I have yards where I've seen centipede and St. Augustine. And one thought is centipede likes to be mowed low. St. Augustine likes to be mowed high. Maybe if you want to keep the centipede, you mow it low, which would stress out the St. Augustine. If you want to keep the St. Augustine, maybe you mow it high, which would be more favorable to St. Augustine. Yeah, I don't think it's going to like fix it overnight, but it would sort of give favoritism to one grass over the other. Do you use MA Target 6 Plus? Now that's no longer legal on your residential properties, but it is on golf courses, right of ways, and things like that. Great for Dallas grass, getting out of Bermuda and stuff like that, but no longer legal on residential. I need help. I have a yard full of clover and warm season grass in Delaware. Yeah, I mentioned this earlier. I just did a video how to, I tried out 4 different products, but a lot of options. I mean, you can use 2,4-D. I used Change Up, Blindside, Tribute Total, Celsius. They all kill clover. Metsulfuron is dirt cheap. It'll kill clover. So any of those. Let's see. I have more weeds than grass in areas of patches. Need to get lawn in shape to sell the house. Best, fastest approach, please, in California. So I would think in California, if I had to, I don't know much about California other than you might have warm season grasses in some area, cool season grasses in other area. So she's saying she's doing it by herself. Now, if you were with cool season grasses, you might still be cool enough temperatures where you could just overseed it now. And I don't. If you don't know how to do it, it says you can be doing it yourself, but you may look into hiring. It may not be that expensive to find somebody who's knows what they're doing in that area, because but if it's a warm season grass, it's going to be hard to fix it right now without just putting some sod down. I mean, it's not going to really start spreading, and you can't really seed very well until it gets hot. So you're a little premature. But if the cool season grass, you probably could just overseed it. All right. I have a 50 and 100-gallon skid, and yes, neither is big enough. The 100-gallon is in the back of my half-ton. The 50-gallon goes on a trailer for extra work. I think he's responding to the other guy that was saying, what's the smallest you can get started with? So, yeah, I'd be interested to know how many gallons per 1,000 are you spraying with that? I would have it toned way down. Yeah, that brings me to a question, Dave, as far as like you guys, how the ride-on spreader sprayer market has boomed in the last 10 years or so, and probably even before then. But how do you talk to people about that? I mean, do you try to like see yourself as a partner with the ride-on spreader sprayers or competition against the ride-on spreader sprayers? And what do you sell as far as like, because I've got both and I use both. But you got the low volume versus obviously a lot more volume with what you guys do. So just comment on that if you would.
Well, like you said, you got one of those machines, and you also have a sprayer. We realize that we are, that they're not going anywhere. They're still building more and more. So we don't look at it as competition to us. We try to accommodate the user of that, because you're always going to have a sprayer of some kind. So there may be days when you want to go spray, but it's too wet to run your machine. So you're going to pull a hose, or you need some way to fill that machine when you empty it out. So we try to accommodate it. We build nurse tanks that are just strictly for flipping that little switch and dropping that hose down into that tank, filling it up. We build a sprayer that is both sprays lawns and fills your sprayer machine. So, and we build that lawnscaper and box trucks. We also do box trucks too, to house your ride-on sprayers with a drive-up ramp that you don't have to trailer. So we know that those machines are fantastic. They're not going anywhere, and we support the guys who want to use them, because we know that they're still going to need a sprayer. They're still going to need some accessories to go with their setup.
Yeah, and I like the agitation I get in my gram unit, so I get it good and agitated, and then spray it into the ride-on if I'm gonna do that. So, but yeah, you're right. On the wet days, I'm pretty much spraying just about all my yards with my gram unit. But yeah, wet days, even for people that are using the ride-ons mostly, if it's wet or it's super hilly, I've got some yards you just can't put a ride on. And I'm, have to be half billy goat to walk. I got one today. By the time I got to the top of the hill, I thought, well, the hardest part's over. I just got to spray my way back down to the truck, But anyway, all right, let's see. We got some more questions here. Let me make sure I'm not skipping anybody. All right, Jackson says that he said, I'm a newer applicator, but I was going to get a single unit as a starter. I'd say 100-gallon split tank would be ideal for starting out. I think that's one way to do it. Or if you got the 200, let's say you're in my situation, you're dealing with multiple grass types or multiple situations, you had a 200-gallon tank. Well, for 200, I feel like I could configure that, even had to drop my volume down to where I could get through the day without filling up most days. And let's say I had multiple grass types, I may have to say, well, you know what? Today's Bermuda zoysia day, and tomorrow is centipede day. So I may have to empty it and remix it for the new grass type. Again, I love the split tank, and so I see where you're going there with the split. But 100 gallons would be pretty small for me. I'd be filling up halfway through the day, or maybe before lunchtime. All right. Let's see. I would love to expand into weed control, but as a solo owner, I'm hesitant. Any recommendations of things to look for a used sprayer? All right, Dave. You don't have to take your Graham hat off here, but when sometimes people ask you, hey, I just don't have much money. I'm gonna buy something online. Even if it was from a competitor, what are something you tell them to look for when they go to buy a sprayer, so they don't just buy a piece of junk?
Well, there's common components out there, like we use the AR pumps, which some people used to recognize as the Hypro pump. They're good quality, and there's like anything else. They can be rebuilt, they can be redone. The condition is everything. You can go on some of these lawn care sites where people sell stuff like that. I have no problem with all recommending somebody if that's where they're at in their careers and their starting off point. You can find some good quality stuff out there. Occasionally somebody's upgraded their rig, or, some people like to tinker, like to buy these used ones and fix them up. There's, Craigslist, and then there's lawn care sites on Facebook, especially. There's sites on there where people, that's all they do is talk about, their equipment and used equipment and stuff like that. So, it's nothing wrong with that if that's where you're at, in your career. And, a lot of times we have traded in stuff where people upgrading, they just no longer have use for a certain rig. So we'll trade it in. And, our intention when we get something like that is to fix it up, rebuild it, recondition it, and sell it. A lot of times we sell it before we even have a chance to touch it, because somebody else comes along and buys it as it is, just sitting there, All
right. Here's our best comment yet. Smash that thumbs up for my man, Jason Creel. Appreciate that, Sean. All right. Those that cannot sink $60,000 in a startup, how can that person get a new Graham sprayer on a used truck and get financing? All right. What's out there for finance? So what do y'all tell people? Not everybody's got 60,000 in their bank account, Dave. So how do y'all work with people in that situation?
Oh, there's finance companies we go through that are catered to the lawn care business. There's some that will have, like you can they'll set it up for your payment structure. They'll even have, some of them even have lower payments when you're not busy, and as far as because they understand it's a seasonal business. So we have different options out there for financing. We just have to get you set up with the right spray rig first, and then we'll see to that part of it, after we find the right spray rig.
All right. I have 3 55-gallon rain collectors hooked together. What pump would be good for a raised garden 15 feet away with a hose or micro sprinkler? This is a little off topic, but do you know anything about that, Dave?
Sound like they need to go to Tractor Supply, and get one of them little electric pumps in there that'll do that job there.
Watch some. I'm sure you watch YouTube videos on how to set up your what do you call it, micro irrigation, or what do you call it? Anyway, all right. Let's see. Centipede turning yellow in North Florida. What could I do? Well, let's see. One, why it's turning yellow. One, I quit spraying it. So it may be yellow because if you if you spraying herbicide during a transition period. I know I've seen that firsthand. I sprayed a centipede yard. I thought, oh, it's got weeds. I need to weeds, and about March you're on, and boy, you got a yellow centipede yard for about a month. So if that's what spray it, let it turns green. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, maybe James, if you want to chime in on that one, you might have some thoughts on what they could do if they're. Question for Dave: what's the best quality 3/8 inch hose for a hose reel that won't kink? I need a replacement hose, and I don't mind spending for a high quality hose. Don't y'all sell? Could you just sell somebody a hose even if they're not don't have a ram rig?
Yeah, we do that. We have a parts department that sells hoses, 300 or 400 foot. Most common is 400 foot rolls. We're constantly holding our suppliers accountable for the quality of the hose. We're constantly making sure we have the best quality hose out there for that exact reason. So we enjoy getting feedback from our customers, but the specific brand name I don't know, but you just reach out to us at grandmessy.com, and if you do a request, you just say what you're looking for. We'll get in touch with you and get you that hose on what area you're in. But if you're
he's one in Texas, West Texas.
Okay, all right, yeah. Then there's they're not all hoses are not made equally, so we can hook you up with the best hose.
I remember I had a 1/2 inch hose. Now I got a 3/8. I definitely think that was smart. When it doesn't sound like a lot, but when it's got water in it and you're pulling it, it's just I just prefer the 3/8. All right, he says to answer your question, he's running 2 gallons per 1,000 for his 100-gallon skid. That's the 50s mainly for shrub. So 2 gallons per 1,000 there. You cover a little over an acre. So I mean, yeah, you can get some yards done. Anyway, you might end up having to fill up sometime. Motown Hustler says, "What's up, Dave?" And I bought a used 200-gallon spray rig. I took it to Graham to get serviced and reframed. So it sounds like he's a customer of you guys. All right. What's the best herbicide to kill wild onion and garlic? I use Blindside. Now, if you got a few of them, I go out there with Blindside. Now, I think the metsulfuron is probably what kills it. And so if you just want to go cheapo, you just get some of that and spray on there, even at a 1/4 ounce per acre. You may not see anything happen the whole winter when you spray it. But when you do, but the hope is that next year, a lot of it won't come back. But if you want to see some action, then you get the Blindside and you spray with that, which has metsulfuron as well as sulfitrazone in it, and you spray it. And by like this time of year, let's say I sprayed the onions and garlic in November, I'm going back. Here I am in late March. Those onions are looking pitiful, and I think a lot of them are not going to come back the next year. Now it may still be a process, but I know for a fact this house I bought a couple years ago had tons of onions that first winter, and I sprayed it, and I have significantly less just using metsulfuron, which is super cheap. He said, yeah, he does have to do multiple fill-ups in a day, but he's close to home. So, yeah, give you an excuse to go home and eat lunch and afternoon snack, morning snack. So, all right. Any more questions, you guys? We got about 6 more minutes here. Dave, tell us what's some of the craziest uses you've seen people set up their spray tanks for. I remember you talking to me about the guy that was spraying deer repellent or something, but and I know you get mostly lawn care people, but what are you seeing that people come in as customers and that they're into with their units?
We've had people come by that just spray lakes,
Okay.
Yeah, there's a treatment for ponds and lakes and things for the health of for the fish and the wildlife and everything in there. There's along with the people up on Martha's Vineyard that spray for deer. Now, luckily for the animal rights people, they're not killing the deer. They're just, it's a repellent. It's a natural occurring repellent that just makes them not want to eat the rose bushes on Martha's Vineyard. And that same, there's an offshoot now, which is also for ticks and mosquitoes. And then there's also spraying for geese as well to repel the geese from landing, moving everywhere. And luckily those are all environmentally friendly, places that they're just, it's just determined. It doesn't hurt them. It just makes them not want to eat the grass there and stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I wonder, I'd like to know what they're using. I could use some goose repellent here. I'm at the lake, my family's lake house, and there's great blue herons and geese and all that stuff. They leave their marks for sure. Mm-hmm. How do you treat henbit and dandelion? Yeah, it's going to depend on what kind of grass you have. Those are not difficult weeds to kill. We've talked about 2,4-D. 2,4-D, I believe, would kill both of those. I'm using a product called Triplet, which is a 3-way herbicide, and it will definitely knock those out, and I believe can be used on both warm and cool season grasses. Dave, are your fiberglass tanks made with any special type resins due to the different type of chemicals being used in them? You ever, what makes those fiberglass tanks pretty much hold up a long time, don't they? Or is there something
they really
about fiber? He's asking about your fiberglass tanks.
I don't think so. I think it's pretty standard. I mean, it's it's once it hardens on the inside, it seals it off. And when it's built properly, it's resilient to, many, many years of service. And that's the great thing about the fiberglass is it can be compartmented many different ways, and you can do your mechanical agitation in there, and it holds up just fine. It really, you think about the load it's carrying, and you're driving over miles and miles and stop after stop, and it just lasts for years. It's really quite amazing product,
All right, we got time for one or two more questions. If you got a last question, bring it on. How can I help my centipede take over my Bermuda grass, Central Alabama? Thank you. Well, good news for you. In my observation, centipede usually takes over Bermuda. If the two are side by side, your neighbor's got centipede and you got Bermuda, his centipede is going to be creeping over into your Bermuda unless you do something to stop it, which there's a lot of things you can spray that centipede doesn't like. But normally I've seen yards, they have a centipede patch in the middle of Bermuda or middle of zoysia, and that patch keeps growing bigger and bigger. I think the main thing you're going to do is be patient, but you could, there's a cool little deal. I got one, get them on Amazon. It's called a Pro Plugger. It's it looks like something you'd step on to cut a new golf hole out on a putting green or something like that. But it'll take a plug. You could try taking some plugs of centipede and go ahead and start plugging it in your Bermuda and just letting it get the process started over there. But those are my thoughts. But yeah, I think it's going to happen. It just may take a little while. Dave, we've had it's been a wild party here, and you've done great. This is your big break, man. You're going big time after this. I do really appreciate the knowledge. I think it's been great. Somebody says Pro Players are great. What'd you say from Bermuda? Flume. Shoot, I don't know the answer to this. I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with that first product there. So Sulfitrazone, I know it can ding up your Bermuda when it gets hot weather. So if you tell me what product name that first one's in, I may be more familiar with it. But anyway, it's been great, Dave. And tell them, let me just say it for you. Dave and the team over at Graham are fantastic. I've gotten to know them on the first name basis, Teddy and Dave and Donnie and Chad. And when I go over there, they treat me like family. And it's not just me. I've sent friends over there, and they say, hey, I'm never going to buy a spray tank from anybody else. So, what I like about dealing with them is they're local, down-to-earth people, and they really do stand behind their product. And it's not just because I'm on YouTube. You call them, and they will walk you through the issues. They build quality spray tanks. So I really appreciate you being with us, Dave. And, anything else you want to say in closing? But I really appreciate Graham's partnership on YouTube and what you guys are doing, and we hope to continue to send you more business in the future.
We appreciate it, Jason. Thank you for having me on. It's an honor for us for that you choose Graham to be your equipment provider. You've done a lot for us, over the years. We appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and you guys like James. I mean, I can't say enough about working with you guys and what you do for us and what you do for the green industry. I mean, I really appreciate my years in the business because I get to work with people like y'all.
Appreciate it, Dave. You guys, if you want to get in touch with Dave or Teddy, they're the salespeople over there. Dave's the sales manager, and you just go to grahamsc.com and their phone number will be on there, or you can fill out an online request and get in touch, and they'll walk you through, again, no matter what stage you're at in the business. And they helped me get started, and not because I had deep pockets, because I didn't. they didn't try to push me onto something I couldn't afford or use. So anyway. All right, Dave, we'll see you around and appreciate you being on the show. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you next time.
Good night.